This is the first of my videos looking at the nominees for the 2009 Golden Crocoduck Award. The big problem, as always, is whether this year's nominees are really breaching the Ninth Commandment or whether they're just genuinely ignorant. Case in point, the Banana Man.
Ray Comfort, he's the author of, quote, "You can lead an atheist to evidence, but you can't make him think."
That's right, the man who brought us the atheist's worst nightmare, the banana, has written a book about how atheists don't accept his evidence. After a number of atheists told Comfort that the modern banana was cultivated by man, not by God, he's finally conceded, through a spokesman, of course.
Comfort apologized for his mistake about the banana, saying, "My apologies for not explaining myself more clearly. I was not aware that the common banana had been so modified through hybridization."
You weren't aware? You didn't know? You didn't check? You didn't read a science book? And yet you complain that when you lead people to this fatuous evidence, they don't believe it. Well, now you know the reason they don't believe it is that they know a lot more about this than you do. They have checked, they have studied science, and they're the ones who forced you to backtrack from your ridiculous assertion that God made the modern banana. And bananas that fit into your hand are no less funny than what followed the apology.
The truth remains that God gave man the knowledge and ability to modify it, so that it perfectly fit into his hand. He did the same with big dogs, so they can fit into his car, and with wild cats, so that they are perfectly fit for his wife.
Yes, you did hear that correctly. And no, this isn't a parody. It comes from Comfort's own channel, Way of the Master.
But in their effort to make him look foolish, atheists gave Ray Comfort an international platform for his message. His book, You Can Lead an Atheist to Evidence, But You Can't Make Him Think, rocketed up the Amazon.com rankings on its first day of release.
Great! So it doesn't matter if Comfort is spouting crap, as long as people buy the book. The more crap Comfort spouts, the more he'll be laughed at, and the more books he'll sell. Sounds like a gravy train, Ray. Keep that laughable evidence coming.
Let's pretend I'm a believer in evolution for a moment. There's a big bang, life form begins, and over millions of years, a dog evolves. It's the first dog. He's got a tail, legs, teeth, eyes, and it's good that he's got eyes because he needs to look for a female. He's been blind for millions of years, but now he can see. Right. He's got to find a female. She's got to be evolved at the right place, the right time, with the right reproductive organs and a desire to mate. Because without a female, he's a dead dog.
So you're saying that this new species, this dog, popped out from something that didn't have teeth, eyes, and a tail, and it was unique. But it's obvious even to creationists who don't accept evolution, like Ken Ham, that animals change in populations, because populations exchange genes. Ham's Creation Museum claims the different types of horses we see today evolved from original pairs on Noah's Ark. If the Ray Comfort theory of miraculous evolution is correct, how did we get the wide variety of horses, dogs, cats, and even humans that we see today? How did the first Slav, or the first Australian Aborigine, find another Slav or another Australian Aborigine to breed with?
You've just got to think for a moment.
No doubt Ray will soon figure out how the birds and the bees work, and that the theory of evolution doesn't propose new species spring fully formed from the utera of other species. And then he'll come back with yet another apology, saying he was unaware of this.
So isn't it safe to say that also with the opposable thumb and everything, we are quite similar to chimpanzees? And if it's the similarity of a creator, why aren't we similar to elephants or whales or birds?
Well, that's just not the way he made us. We are obviously very similar in a lot of ways and very dissimilar. But the point was that when you change one nucleotide, you kill people.
What?
When you change three, you have a disease that's fatal.
Hate to break it to you, Don, but you probably have a dozen mutations that make you different from both of your parents. Scores of them are different to your grandparents, and hundreds are different from your great-grandparents. Go back far enough, and you're millions of nucleotides different from your distant ancestors.
Changing three is going to mess things up. What's going to happen when you change randomly 48 million?
Except that, of course, they're not random. They've been selected. The good changes would have survived and been handed down to you. The bearers of bad genes would have died off.
My dog gets depressed when I'm out of town, my wife tells me.
What?
And that dog understands me. I mean, I just talk and...
What?
It's a brilliant dog, and sometimes almost talks.
Come back when you're feeling better.
The theory of evolution claims that the universe is evolving from chaos into order.
The theory of evolution says the universe is evolving from chaos into order. In what strange book, in which bizarre library did you read this piece of nonsensical crap? You clearly have no knowledge or understanding of the theory of evolution if you think it addresses anything like the second law of thermodynamics, which you're about to explain.
But in physics, the second law of thermodynamics is called the law of entropy, and it states the exact opposite.
Of course it does, because your first statement is such utter crap that the second law of thermodynamics is bound to say the complete opposite. And now you're going to get that wrong, aren't you?
Everything in the universe is actually going from order to chaos.
No, the second law of thermodynamics doesn't say that at all. But before I go on to explain what it does say, have a little argument with a fellow creationist who seems to think everything is going the opposite way, from chaos into order.
Que nós temos a parte de termodinâmica que nos diz que a tendência normal de todas as coisas é de ir do organizado para o desorganizado. A única coisa que vai do desorganizado para o organizado é a teoria do Big Bang. Tudo que nós observamos no universo vai no sentido contrário, do desorganizado para o organizado.
Well, that's what happens when you start making things up based on your own level of faith and ignorance. So which creationist is right? Is everything going from order into chaos, or chaos into order? Fortunately, science goes by the evidence, and the evidence shows one very clear answer. Adalto Loureço is wrong, and Sin City Preacher is wrong too. But if I was going to award grades, Loureço would get an F and Sin City would get at least a D-. The second law of thermodynamics states that in a closed system, energy tends towards entropy, in layman's terms, from order into chaos. And of course the Earth isn't a closed system. And since it will be destroyed in 5 billion years' time, it's certainly not inconsistent with the tendency of the universe towards entropy. Given that this kind of stuff is as easy to look up as the cultivation of the banana, why is it so hard for these people to simply read a book? And if you don't read science books, and if you know so little, why look so pleased about it?
With survival of the fittest, it was okay to exploit people. After all, they were weak.
Notice how subtly Earl Tilford changes the phrase survival of the fittest to survival of the strongest. The theory of evolution doesn't say it's okay to kill people any more than the theory of gravity says it's okay to drop babies off the Golden Gate Bridge. The theory just tells us what happens in the world around us. In nature, the fittest survive. Not necessarily the strongest, or the meanest, or the ones with the biggest ears. In fact, in humans, it was intelligence, not strength, that ensured our survival. And it wasn't the meanest individuals that survived, but the most cooperative groups. Groups of humans that cooperated in hunting and food sharing were much better able to survive, that is, much fitter, than groups of humans who didn't cooperate, didn't share, and continually squabbled.
I've got a cat that talks.
What?
Now, people don't believe that, but it'll jump up on the
Turn the lights out.
on the cabinet, standing next to the faucet, and say, "Water." I can record that.